Hi everybody, it's Benty Hansen again. I'm been thinking about how to really encourage and support unity. You know, it's easy enough. I get out and about, I talk to a lot of people, and I have a lot of contacts outside of my regular close circle of family and friends. And yet I'm really aware that it's time for you and I and for all of us to really make a big shift within. And it was about a year ago now, September last year actually, 2019, that I had this strong urging that just kept repeating and repeating in my head. Now, I hear words, I get messages, but I also am clairvoyant, and I also know and I feel. It's the whole gamut for me. So about a year ago, I started getting this sense of urgency. And when I asked, what is this urgency about? I took the message to be a personal one, but it really wasn't. It was for everybody. And the message basically was, it's time for us to transform from within. It's really easy to observe what's happening in the world around us, to make judgments, and to be critical of how others are responding, or basically taking the worldview that there's them and there's us. There's not, there's only all of us. We are one. And the message was very clear: transformation, shift from within, do your inner work, let go of all of those things that create separation and isolation. Now that's really a good message, but how do you do it? And where do you start? So on reflecting on what this next video would be about, I felt that it was time to talk about two things. The first one is change, and the second one is fear. And I've only got a short period of time. Both of these deserve a lot more time than I can give them. However, I'm going to talk about change first because it's so important. We've become accustomed to living in a world where we feel that we are in charge of things. We have control of the way our lives are lived. Well, I don't know what to say about that, because in reality, everything is changing around us so rapidly, and you and I have no choice but to go with a lot of the changes, and also to navigate and feel our way through this process. One of the things that I learned, and I've also had this validated and confirmed by many of my clients over the years, is that as you go about shifting your inner landscape, as you become more in tune with your heart and the love frequency that's within, that this process often creates conflict within a family and within friendship groups. And this means that the person who's making the inner shift then may be on the receiving end of criticism, judgment, harassment, you name it. I've been there myself, and being told that you don't know what you're talking about, or what's wrong with you. And, this is, being told that their reality is the real one. It's the only one. And therefore you must comply with their reality. This is what happens when you begin to change. And having studied the sociology of change many years ago, one of the things that became very apparent is that as you change from within, you will meet with resistance. You will meet with the naysayers. You will have to contend with disparaging comments and remarks, and maybe even a sense of feeling isolated and alienated from those close to you. Because everybody else who is not changing, who is not shifting from within, resist that change, and they will do anything and everything to bring you back into the fold. Now, this construct of resistance to change, or resisting those who are changing, applies in business, in organisations, as much as it does within family and friendship groups. All I can say is if you are going through a process of inner change right now, don't stop. Keep going, because there are outcomes that ultimately can be highly beneficial for you. I've learned through my own experiences that there are those who have been part of my life who could not deal with the changes happening to me. Just as there are those who ended up changing because I'd changed. And this is really important, because when you do a lot of your inner work, letting go of old wounds and pain and suffering, you actually end up playing a pivotal role in healing your generational trauma. And this is why, on a soul level, you've chosen to go through this process. People may be alienated for a while. People may continue thinking that you're kooky or you've lost the plot. Keep going. The advantage of continuing on with this is that you end up meeting and connecting with like-minded souls. And right now, all across the globe, there is this amazing energy connection that is happening, soul to soul. And it's like connecting with soul family, because there is a resonance, there is an energy resonance that is occurring. And with that, it supports the inner shift that you are taking. Does this mean that you have to abide by the changes that are being given, via our governments, medical experts and so forth? That's your choice. I can't tell you what to do. All I know is that from where I'm sitting, I observe what's going on. I do not become emotionally attached to it. I look at it, I study it as though I would study a specimen under a microscope, and then I shake my head because it feels like I'm watching a movie. It has no connection for me. And this is what the change does. As you change from within, your frequency shifts and you come to a higher vibration. And ultimately, we're going into this 5D vibration, which has been talked about at length, but it's more than 5D. It can go beyond that. The term 5D is just used to explain a concept. It's as simple as that. However, the more that you work on yourself and letting go and, moving more into a heart-centered space, the more you actually pave the way for others. And this is why the change must be from within. We're seeing the change happening worldwide as people are waking up. Many of them are feeling a lot of anger and resistance and feeling sense of betrayal. That is only a stage or a phase of it. Because from there on, there comes a calmness. There exists a calmness within. Once that inner trauma has been released, which is part of the awakening, then you go on to shift and you just observe the drama being played out in another dimensional reality, that is 3D. Now, the second part that I would like to talk about is fear. One of the things that I encountered, and I can guarantee countless others have encountered this thing called fear. When I first decided to look at my fears, I looked at the ones that were consciously evident. For example, fear of heights, fear of spiders. And I was very fortunate. I read a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, which was published in the 1980s. And I used that book very seriously. But as I went along, what I uncovered, and I'm still uncovering, believe you me, nearly 30 years later, is that it's not the obvious fears that trip me up, it's the subconscious fears. And the more that I learned to deal with and heal the conscious fears, the more the subconscious fears surfaced and became evident. Now, I'm not convinced that, in this lifetime anyway, we're all going to completely clear all of those subconscious fears that drive us like a computing program. Those fears I liken to a virus. However, as you go through this process of change, of changing from within, you're going to have some fears that suddenly may erupt to the surface. You're going to have fears that may undermine your efforts, and you may feel that you're being roadblocked. When you get to this point in time, that is what is happening. There's some virus from within, which happens to be a fear, and which is saying, take a look at me. I'm here because you need to see me and you need to recognize me. One of the sayings that I learned many years ago was a very simple phrase, it was a statement actually, which goes along the line of, I release with love, and I would add whatever it was to it. So it may be, I release with love all subconscious fears that are no longer, serving me well. And that's just a statement. But we have to remember the power of words can change reality. And generally, whenever I use this phrase, I release with love, in relation to any fear, what I then find is a few days later, I may need to go to the bathroom a lot, or I may have a headache, or I may be extremely tired, or even an energy of anger may surface. Because energetically, from within, there is that release, just by placing the intention. And the energy of fear actually correlates with the energy of anger. And so when you get really angry about something, more than likely there could be a fear of being controlled. There could be a fear of losing your rights, because this is where we are right now. There could be a fear of death. There could be a fear of being physically or injured in some way. Look, everyone is very unique, and we all have our own fears to recognize, acknowledge, and release. The one fear that I am observing as being really evident right now is the fear of death. And this is why there's so much compliance with government edicts. The fear of death. This virus is going to kill us. No, it's not. Because what you think and what you feel is what you create. And I have to tell you that I don't do flu vaccines. I don't fear a virus because I trust my body to keep me healthy, and I do all that I can to keep it healthy. Not once have I given this virus, this COVID virus, an ounce of energy in relation to myself. Maybe this is because of the fact that I've lived quite a long time on this planet, and I've found the study of death fascinating. And I think that sometimes what you fear is what you need to learn about. Give you an example. In the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, the author Susan Jeffers suggested that if you have a fear about, for example, spiders or snakes, you don't go in and spend time with them, one-on-one or any such thing, but instead read about them, learn about their beauty, learn about their role in this world, how they actually play a pivotal role. In other words, desensitizing. So, if you find that a number of your fears are surfacing during this so-called epidemic, which I tend to call a plandemic or scamdemic, if you find your fears surfacing, look at what those fears are and be prepared to transmute them into the vibration of love. And, this is not an easy journey. Nobody has said it was going to be easy. But every soul that has incarnated upon this planet has chosen to be here at this time. And every soul has chosen to be part of the oneness of it all. Not you or myself in isolation, sitting there biting our nails, worrying about death, or being controlled by governments, or having our freedoms restricted. We've actually chosen to be here to help this planet, our beautiful Mother Earth, ascend to the higher frequency of 5D. And this means that on an individual level, it's absolutely vital that we adapt to change, learn to transmute those fears into love. And in doing so, we are actually working more in unity than in isolation. Thanks so much. Take care and do the work. Bye for now.